Yes, what's happening, people? And welcome back to the GavGoesIn podcast. So, guys, obviously, Next Gen 50, the best 50 young players in world football right now. And as I said, I think I've done four already. So, I've done William Esteval, I've done Giovanni Quenda, Sunderland's Chris Rigg, Liverpool youngster Rio Engamoha. And now the fifth one, we're looking at Jorrel Hato of Ajax. So, guys, for me, Jorrel Hato for me might be an unknown to many fans, around the world. Obviously, he plays for Ajax. I believe he's 19 actually now, 19 years of age. Left-sided centre-back or left-back, and I think this guy has got huge potential in the future. I think he's the youngest captain for Ajax as well. I think he was captain at 17 in the Europa League, I believe, and I believe he's someone with huge potential. I think in terms of his playing style, he's very comfortable on the ball. Aerially, he's quite dominant as well. As with players of his playing style as well, he possesses good pace, decent strength. His passing ability as well is very good. And I think he's someone in the future that will get moved on to a bigger club. There has been interest from the likes of Arsenal, and I think Arsenal might have been quoted, 100 million for Jorrel Hato. Barcelona, have been credited with interest as well. And I believe there might be another club as well. I believe it might be Newcastle, And I think, as I said, I can see why there's interest growing in him, I think in terms of modern day centre-backs and full-backs, especially being left-footed like he is, I think he's someone that, of his profile, there isn't too many players that possess the kind of qualities that he has, and I think in the future, I reckon he might be one of the top left-backs or left-sided centre-backs in the game. I think it's going to be interesting to see where he does play. I think at the moment his future probably is more as a left back, because I think in terms of his height to be a centre back, there is obviously other players that are more physically imposing. But as he grows, he's still only 19. I think for sure, he's going to be someone that will either be a leading left back and again someone that can fill in at centre back. A bit like what Josko Gvardiol does. Josko Gvardiol is actually a centre-back, but is equally adept at playing left-back. And I think Jorrel Hato might have the same trajectory in his career. So we'll go through some of the appearances that he's made. So as I said, 19 years of age, made his debut at 16. Youngest ever captain for Ajax in Europe. So he's had over 100 appearances in all competitions for Ajax as well, So at his young age, at 19, you can already say he's very experienced. And again, this is something that Ajax do, Ajax do bring through their players early. You look at Matthijs de Ligt, I think de Ligt, I believe, was captain for Ajax. I want to say at 17 as well, their regular captain, They've had so many players come through. Frankie de Jong, obviously a young guy. I think they might have bought de Jong actually from someone else. But yeah, they've got a history of just giving youngsters appearances, from the ages of like 16, 17. And then these guys become household names and then end up moving on for big money, He's got a contract with Ajax. I think he signed a new contract quite recently to 2028, And there was quotes of 100 million euros, which is about what I think it's about 80 or 90 million British pounds. So again, I don't think he'll go for that amount. I think that's just to ward off any suitors. I think if we're being honest, I can see Jorrel Hato being signed by anyone. I think 45, 50 million might be the starting point, and then you're including add-ons to get him over the line. But I think it'd be a smart investment because you look at his age now, the experience that he has, for sure for me, he'll be someone that will be highly sought after. Because as I said, being left-footed and the kind of profile that he is, you know, these profiles aren't too often, you know. Again, he's got 1 cap for Holland with 1 assist, you know, and I think he's been sent off as well. I think if I remember right, he got sent off against Spain in that Nations League semi-final, I believe it was, you know. I think he actually started the first leg where he got sent off, you know. So yeah, as I said, he's got a lot of experience in club football, you know, and again, he's going to be another one off the production line that I believe will be moved on from Ajax. You know, again, I'd love Man United to sign him. You know, Man United haven't been credited with an interest in him. For me, United won't sign him because, again, you've already got Aiden Heaven, who's coming from Arsenal, you know, that can play as a left-sided defender in a back three or a left-sided centre-back, you know, and probably has an emergency at left-back as well. So he's probably Jorrel Hato, really, when you think about it, in terms of what Jorrel Hato, the positions that he takes up. You know, so, but I think in terms of the clubs that are interested, I can see why Newcastle will be looking at him. You know, they've let go of Lloyd Kelly, who went to Juventus. And if they're looking at the future, I know they've got Dan Burn, you know, they've got, what's his name, Sven Botman as well, who's been struggling with injury. But in terms of Hato, his age, you know, someone that can, you know, be the future, can also play at left back and compete with Lewis Hall, who again's out injured. You know, that would be a smart signing for Newcastle. Again, Arsenal, again, Gabriel's the first choice. You know, Kivior's done well since he's came in as well. You know, Lewis Skelly's made that left back slot his own. So you'd think that Hato coming in, you know, wouldn't be an automatic starter and would be competing with Lewis Skelly, you know, and obviously Gabriel, who's first choice, and then Kivior, who's done a very good job as backup. So again, I don't really see that one. And then again, Barcelona, you know, if Barcelona are looking at an upgrade in the future on someone like Inigo Martinez, who's left-footed, I hear that. Also got Pau Kabasi, Ronaldo Arroyo as well. And again, he can play left back and he can cover Balde as well in that position, you know. So I think Barcelona is more ideal suited for Jorrel Hato. Again, the stumbling block would be the money, you know. But I think definitely, you know, in terms of the ability, in terms of the quality that he has, you know, the versatility, I think he's someone for me that is going to be one of the, you know, star centre backs or left backs in the future. And where do I see his future? You know, Premier League, possibly, you know, because I think in terms of the money, I think the Premier League is probably the most likely destination in terms of what they can offer in terms of the money. You know, in terms of his playing style, as I mentioned, you know, Barcelona's, Bayern Munich's, Real Madrid's, you know, they can all do with a player like that with his qualities. But whether they'll want to stump up that money to get him, you know, I can't see him going to Italy. I think his trajectory probably for me is further than Italy. I think we're looking at Spain, England, and Germany probably as the most likely destinations, you know. If I'm looking at, you know, Bayer Leverkusen would be a good move for him, I think, as well. You know, they've lost Jonathan Tah. You know, they might want to restructure their defence as well. But as I said, man, with his abilities, for sure, he's going to be someone that's going to be looked out for, you know. And don't be surprised, guys, if there's, you know, I think because his contract's to 2028, you know, it might be a bit of a difficult deal for many clubs to do. But don't be surprised if there is inquiries in him this summer, you know, because as I said, for me, he's got a big future ahead at 19 years of age, already that experienced as well, you know. But yeah, guys, big up yourselves. Let me know what you think in the comments, you know, if you think Jorrel Hato is going to be a good player, or do you think there's other players that of that age will be ahead of him? As I said, let me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. And again, smash that like button, guys, if you enjoy the content and help the channel to grow. And again, let me know what you think. Big up yourselves. Take it easy.